Welcome back to SwitchCorner. Today we're going to be taking a look at No More Heroes 2 Desperate Struggle on the Nintendo Switch. Like the first game, this is a port of a now classic Wii game in the run-up to the release of No More Heroes 3 in 2021. But has this sequel stood the test of time, and is it worth, revisiting with its budget asking price? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here, join our growing family, and let's get started. The story, and it's similar stuff to the first entry. After Travis Touchdown successfully battled his way to the #1 spot on the assassin leaderboards in that first game, he's now taken a few years off, relaxed, but in turn unfortunately dropped not only out of the top 10, but all the way down to the 51st spot. It is quite the fall from grace, that is for sure. 3 years have passed though, and that's where the game is picking things up. Travis is quickly suckered back into this world by Skelter Helter, an assassin out for revenge after Travis killed his brother. Now you must not only climb the leaderboards once again, but get your own revenge for a few acts that took place against you. The first game, it established that brand of humour, the for sure over sexualized and immature themes, and this one just absolutely elevates it across the board. Not only with you now facing human opponents, but things like robots and all sorts. The best summary, they've dialed things up to 11 here, and what it lacks in now, that sense of originality the first game had, it just makes up for with this. If you are thinking of skipping that first entry though, I don't know why you would do that. You can at least jump right in here with few issues. There's very little information carrying over outside of a few characters, but even the game addresses it at the beginning, saying a recap would be boring for the players. It even breaks the fourth wall. Great stuff as always, and a pleasure to see this gang back together. So gameplay, and it largely remains the same from the first entry. Travis is a beam katana wielding badass, and it means the gameplay for sure jumps into things a whole lot quicker this time around. It makes for the entire thing from start to end just feeling like an injection of adrenaline. The opening moment is a huge set piece, and they are just then frequent throughout. Controls, and very little has changed. Slash high, slash low, dodge, lock onto your opponent, punch and kick to stun, and then of course grabbing and throwing. We then also see the return of finishers that are linked to that right stick after you drain a foe's health bar down to 0. This time though, I will say there's a bit more variety. You can cut them in half, down the middle even, or simply behead them. Where the sequel steps things up for me in combat though, it's the power-ups, the specials, and then the recharging of the beam katana. In the first game, the beam katana, for example, it died quickly running out of juice, and you need to do its own brand of recharging. Here in the sequel, it's a little more forgiving, and you won't find it popping up nearly as frequently. It was fun enough and dumb in the first game, but it's for sure a welcome addition to see they dialed it back. Then the power-ups, these are linked again to a random fruit machine wheel, but they are more simplistic in design and easier to control, essentially making you either invincible to plug away at those wave of foes, or allowing you to fire. Finally, we see the addition of the super. Here you're charging your ecstasy meter, that's represented by a tiger on screen. Then once the tiger standing up breathing fire, I think it is, you can actually activate this. What this does is it literally turns you into a tiger and you go sprinting on a rampage. Controls in these moments very loose, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. Just make sure, my advice, use that lock on. So with this one as well, while I want to avoid spoilers, I will say you'll occasionally, towards the middle of the game, get to control a couple of different characters, one being more range based and the other being more about platforming. Platforming, nice idea, but I'm going to warn you now, it's pretty weak stuff, and I found it more frustrating than anything else, but it's over so quick, I doubt it will really bother anyone. Both of these moments though, it's a nice touch at least to let us see some slight variation on the gameplay loop. Finally, motion controls, they are back, but it is not one-to-one movement like the first game. Instead, you're going to adjust your katana height with the motion and then press a button to slash. I said it on the first video as well then, and I'll say it here, this game is demanding of your right stick. It's quickly throwing you into countless quick time offense. So the nice thing with motion is that you just kind of shake the Joy-Con instead of asking for drift on your Joy-Con. I would suggest though, if you want to go that standard kind of controller route though, use a pro controller or a third-party one just to save you any sort of damage to your bank account. That's really it though for the on-foot gameplay. Move from location to location, take down a boss, and then repeat. Well, you are 51st on the leaderboard as well. Do not expect here 51 fights. You'll work your way through 15 in fact, and each of them is as unique, if not actually more original than the first game. While the first was a whole lot of swordplay though, this one for sure brings in, I'd say, more elements of range attacks, even occasionally forcing you to figure out just like how the hell you attack your opponent, almost like a puzzle. Like I said with story though, this one is dialing things to 11, and that's for sure the case in its boss design. We're leaning more than ever into like science fiction territory. An issue I do have with the second game though, the first had a good ramping difficulty as you progressed. This one not quite as much. Occasionally it randomly spikes, and then some feel way too easy. It just lacks some fine tuning on its balancing, and perhaps even the order you face them in. On that note actually as well, the difficulty across the board, I gotta say it has dropped. I think this is a much easier experience overall. So the best thing about No More Heroes 2 though, that I didn't actually like at the time but now appreciate just because for sure didn't age well, it's the removal of the open world elements. No more jumping on the concrete with wheels bike that controlled like a shopping trolley. Instead, at your apartment it's a simple menu selection where you can jump between location to location or even just go straight from boss to boss. It removes that whole need of like earning cash to pay for your progression, which I've got to say is welcome, because now it has side missions, it has weird ass jobs still, you know, the coconut collection, new ones like Blaming Pipe, but now they are truly optional for completionists or simply those like moments where you might feel like something a little different, a change of pace. You will still want to do some of these jobs, so don't get me wrong, because it's going to pay for that clothing but also those weapon upgrades, which for sure helps in your progression as well. What this all leads to though overall is just more cutscenes, more conversation, more depth in general, and when the characters are this good, I really liked the fact I could just kind of like sit back, relax and enjoy the tale. It was really fun just to see how things were advancing. One area this may impact for many though is it's fine-tuned, it's streamlined, which means it's a shorter game. No force padding here means you can wrap the majority of the core story in 5 to 7 hours if you solely focus on those boss moments. I would though still, as I said, suggest you visit the shops, buy new clothes, go get weapon upgrades as I was saying, chill in your apartment and check out your collectibles, or even help your poor cat who now needs to lose weight because they're looking a little chunky. Just because it's not forced on you doesn't mean it's not like worth exploring, but revisiting the game this long after its initial release, what felt like a bad thing at the time is now, or for me at least, a great thing, and I love the choice it now provides. It can be as fast paced or as slow as you want it to be. There's no more like driving or backtracking or anything else. The only other areas, frame rate for a good portion is going to be locked at 60 but occasionally drop into that 40 to 50 range, very much like the first entry's remaster. And then expect to at times be battling against the camera, which, let's face it, it's a trait of not only the genre but the times as well. Not a huge issue, just kind of go in expecting it. Overall gameplay wise, it doesn't add a huge amount to the formula this sequel, but it absolutely just fine tunes it, adding better like, you know, power-ups, providing a great special move, adding a couple of moments where you control others, and then keeping an open world idea but allowing you to simply fast travel around. Where it falls short of the first game though, the balancing of the progression isn't quite right, and the boss moments, I enjoy them, but that like heavier lean into sci-fi may not be for everyone, and a few of the ideas, I wouldn't say they're bad for these encounters, they just don't quite land, which I don't want to discuss just down to spoilers. I will say though, my last thing, make sure you head to the gym for some great retro inspired minigames. So graphically, this was a serious leap from the first game. While the models are largely the same, they found a new clarity and sharpness in the 3 years between entries, which I imagine would have also been down to, you know, budget constraints. But a lot of our favourite characters are back and they are looking better than ever. The world then, the enemy design, it's more varied, and these locations a little more just exciting, especially on the texture front. I think it's fair to say this is what we like to see in a sequel. It has the same vibe of the first game, but it's easy to see, you know, the advancements they made, and this was easily one of the best looking games on the Wii, and now it's looking just better than ever, and that cel shaded style, it just still feels absolutely relevant to this day. Audio then and the voice acting again is spot on, seeing the original cast return while adding new voices to the mix. It's good while capturing the overall B-movie vibe it was going for. Likewise, another great soundtrack, and while I don't think it's as good as the first games, there's still a lot to like here, and it's about as eccentric in its style with themes of rock, pop, electronic and jazz. The only issue with audio I do have, enemy screams. They've used the same voice actor, and at times when you have like say 20 of the same opponent coming at you, can become a bit of an audible nightmare as it loops, and it just drove me a little crazy at points. I ended up actually turning the TV down. So overall, No More Heroes 2 Desperate Struggle is a rare example of a game that took something away, the open world, that I actually missed back in the day first time playing. But now I'm returning, I actually kind of appreciate the fact it makes for a quicker pace that matches that over-the-top violence, and it just allowed me to enjoy the world and characters while getting to know them just a little bit more. Then this steps things up in nearly every area, from the combat to the locations to the graphical style. Now sure, it doesn't capture the originality of the first title, but it still tries a few new things, and I gotta say that newfound pacing makes it an experience worth having. The only areas it really misses, those few moments it tries something different outside of, like, you know, running and slashing, and then the balancing is just a little off at times with your encounters. What I love though was from start to finish, it was just non-stop, and that's translated to a better experience here in 2020 rather than the first game where I was getting, you know, roadblocked behind jobs, behind like payments I needed to make, things like that. It just didn't make for the experience that you'd be looking for now. This is a funny one though. You ask me which is my favorite, and I will always say the first game, no question about it. But this one I'm going to be giving a higher score, a great 8 out of 10, and honestly it's a must play. It's just easier to recommend this one in 2020 because it has honestly just stood the test of time a little bit more. Thanks for watching. Will you be adding either of these to your collection, or these just not for you? I know for sure that No More Heroes brand of humour isn't going to be for everyone. You know, it's bloody, it's over sexualized, but that's why the fans like it so much, and those that do like the look of it, I think you can do a whole lot worse for these price points. We just need, honestly, physical releases now. With that then, like, a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. Helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. If you do want to check that out for yourself, I've linked it in the video description down below. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.